let's move on now to our final main topic of the day. And our final main topic of the day comes to us from Fanimator, who writes, "Hey, John, Pokemon Detective Pikachu is expected to open between 75 to 90 million, a larger opening than Aquaman in its opening weekend, and has 1 billion in its sights. What are your thoughts on the tracking numbers, and can it reach $1 billion? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Fanimator. Basically speaking, normally, you'd like to open north of $100 million if you have aspirations to getting to $1 billion. That's the majority of the films in the that join the $1 billion club have bigger openings. 75 would be low. 90 would put you in that range. I think 90 puts you in that range. You could possibly be there. I think Pikachu looks fantastic. This movie looks absolutely delightful. I mean, it just looks smile-inducing and entertaining and all those sorts of words that you want to throw in there. Mm-hmm. Now, can it get to $1 billion? I don't know. Captain Marvel opened to 150 plus million, and it's going to maybe barely get to 1 billion. And it's going to crawl over the 1 billion. Can something like a Detective Pikachu, where if it opens at 75 million, that's literally half of what Captain Marvel opens to, can it also cross $1 billion? It's conceivable at this point. Let me, really wait until I see the movie and see if it's actually any good or whether it's a hot steaming mess of a film. Like, a lot will depend on how good the movie is. Does it have big rewatchability? Will people want to go back out and see it again? Will word of mouth spread about it? We got to find all that out, and that we're not going to know until the movie opens. But if it does open to like 80 or 90 million and has positive word of mouth and people want to go back and see it again, yeah, it's got potential to hit $1 billion. But here's the funny thing, Rob. I've been having a lot of people say to me recently, like, "Oh, John, you just don't get it." I love it when people tell me that. "You just don't get it, John. Pikachu is going to be a $1.5, $1.6 billion film. It's going to be the biggest film of the year, blah, 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 because," and here's where the rationale comes from, "that it is, in media franchises, the number one gross sales property out there at $92 billion, which outgrosses even something like Star Wars. It outgrosses that. It does. When in overall things, the Pokemon franchise has grossed like $92 billion. And therefore, I keep having people tell me, that means it's going to be bigger in the movie theater than Star Wars. It's going to be a bigger film than Star Wars and all that kind of stuff." And I want to address that just for a second, because I have had so many people writing this to me. "John, you clearly don't understand that it's the number one grossing thing. It has $92 billion. Couple things to keep in mind. Those $92 billion in sales and stuff is not from movie properties. Like, they put out a couple of movies, wide release movies, and they made, I think the last one wide release they put out made $17 million at the box office. One of the ones they put out made like $42 billion. Not bad. But that was a long time ago. Things have evolved, things have changed. Pokemon is a bigger property now. I get that. But the notion that I need to shoot down here, the notion that since Pokemon is such a big grossing IP, that automatically means it's going to be a giant blockbuster hit in the movie theaters, is demonstrably not correct. The assumption that just because it's a huge grossing overall IP, that automatically means it's going to be a big blockbuster. Let's compare a couple of things right here, okay? The biggest grossing media thing is Pokemon, that's made $92 billion in sales gross. Okay. We don't know what the box office is going to be. You know what the number 3 all-time grossing thing is? Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh is the number, you never would have guessed that probably, but it is, with $75 billion. Okay then, if we follow this logic that if you're this big grossing IP brand, that automatically means you're going to be a big monster hit in the theaters. Oh, but Christopher Robin, which was great by the way, only made 197 million worldwide. Where is this? If you're one of the biggest media grossing things, that automatically means big hit. Well, then explain Christopher Robin to me. Christopher Robin is the number 3, not all that far behind Pikachu, $75 billion in sales lifetime, $197 million at the box office. Again, I'm not saying that Pikachu isn't going to be a hit. Not at all. I'm excited about this movie. The trailers have been great. I think it's going to have a big opening. I think $1 billion is a possibility. But this notion that one automatically equals the other is clearly not true. Well, let's look at some other things. Okay, Pikachu's done like $92 billion. You know what Facebook is worth? Facebook is worth $500 billion. And like everybody on the planet at one time or another has made Facebook. Therefore, if you make a movie about it, it's going to be massive. $224 million worldwide when they made The Social Network. What about the most valuable company in the world, Apple? It is a $1 trillion with a T. It is a $1 trillion company, a $1 trillion brand. So they put out a couple of movies about Steve Jobs, and the highest grossing one of them was the one with Ashton Kutcher, made $35 million. Now, this is not an apples to apples comparison. Completely agree. It's not an apples to apples comparison. But the principle here is simply this. If you're going to have this notion that because something is a big brand, that automatically means if you bring it into the movies, it's automatically going to be a huge blockbuster, multi-billion-dollar hit, and that is just simply not the case. So please stop sending me these box office predictions based on, but it's a $92 billion grossing thing. Yeah, but not in the movies, it's not. This movie, Pikachu, is going to do great or do okay based on how great or okay the movie is. They put out fabulous trailers. If the trailers had sucked, we wouldn't be talking about this movie, but the trailers have been fantastic. So people are going to be excited about it. People are going to go see it, and it's going to make money. I ain't saying this is an apples to apples comparison. I'm not saying Pikachu isn't going to be a big hit. I believe it is. But it has nothing to do with the fact that it's a measly $92 billion grosser when you got things worth 500 or a trillion or a Winnie the Pooh that just made slightly less, 75 billion. One does not equal the other. That's all I'm saying. Now, getting back to the actual functional question, can this movie hit $1 billion? Rob, I think that the $75 to $90 million projection for opening weekend may actually be underestimating it a bit. I think it's possible this Pikachu film could open to $100 million. But again, for me, the question about whether this thing can actually be $1 billion film is all going to be about how good this movie is. It's going to have a big opening weekend, regardless. How far it goes after that, because if we go see it and people are like, meh, then it ain't going to hit $1 billion. It's just not. If people go out and see it and go, this is fantastic, I think it's got a legit shot. How do you see it?
Well, first of all, yes, it depends how good the movie is. But I always go back to, I use what I call mom logic. My mom, Nancy Burnett, she's going to be 80 years old. I always think, I use her not as my entire barometer, but if my mom has any interest at all in her, like she doesn't follow movie news, but if she has, like my mom asked me about Avatar. We never had a conversation about it. She wanted to see it. You know, there are movies that my mom just wants to see that my 80-year-old mother knows about. And I know if my mom's talking about a movie, then she might want to see it. My mom would never want to see this movie, no matter how much money it made, because she has no interest. All she knows of Pokemon is my sister's son collected Pokemon cards, and it drove her insane trying to find the missing cards he needed. That's all my mom knows. Now, Detective Pikachu might be funny, but the whole premise is a gimmick. You know, they've turned even the premise of Pokemon and made it into something really interesting and clever. But the only people that are interested really in seeing this are we, the built-in movie-going pundit audience. And I think it's got anybody who sees the trailer, anybody who likes entertaining times at the movies, the Jumanji crowd's going to turn out for this film. So it could be very, very successful.
That was a big crowd.
It was a big crowd, and I could see that crowd, and that almost made $1 billion, you know, and we could see that crowd turning out. But like you said, the movie has to be good. It really is a gimmick movie, and if the gimmick works, you've got Ryan Reynolds playing Pikachu. That in itself, they've made this movie as bulletproof as possible. But the idea that it's going to make $1 billion, this is not yet a 4-quadrant slam dunk. This is a gimmick movie that appears to be done really, really well, and we'll see if it pays off. But this movie is not going to make as much as I don't even think Deadpool, the first Deadpool.
Yeah, I think
We'll see.
I think all the things being equal, I would project right now like 600 million worldwide for this thing. But again, it comes down to, I mean, that's great for an early projection. But if I see this movie and I go, oh my God, I got to come back and I got to bring like 5 people I know with me. Like if it's that good and that entertaining, I think it's got a crack at it. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, gets to $1 billion, even if it's the best thing ever. But I think it has a crack at it maybe. But if it's good and all other things being equal, I'm projecting like 600 million. Where would you think it might fall? I mean, again, we withhold the right to change our guesstimates here once we see the film. But all other things being equal, what do you think?
I have no sense about it because the gimmick is good. The premise is good. But I don't have any sense of, is the rest of the movie, am I going to be completely tired out by this movie 30 minutes into it? Or is it going to enchant me and bring me into the world the way Who Framed Roger Rabbit did? You know, Who Framed Roger Rabbit could have been a gimmicky movie, but because it was directed by Robert Zemeckis, post Back to the Future, it was doing something that had never been done before with the mixing of, we'd seen live action and animation blended, but not in that way. It became a huge hit because the movie itself, it moved beyond its gimmick. And I think this movie, if it does that, if it moves beyond the premise and has a really great, compelling story that carries the audience to the end, it could be a big hit. But that's hard to say based on a trailer. I have no sense of this. It won't be until I start hearing reviews from critics I believe in that I could really give you, based on the premise and what we see now, I'd say $750 million, if not more. But my caveat is that I have no sense of what this movie's going to be. So I'm just saying that based on a trailer. That's it.